Good morning. Welcome to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Jim and Jeff Stanch here, hosts of this show every Saturday morning at the 8 o'clock hour. We're glad you could be here. Hopefully you're not too tuckered out from snow shoveling.
Hopefully listeners aren't all sleeping in because they're all wore out from snow shoveling.
I hope not.
And they might miss us.
Well, hopefully they are still listening, recovering. What better way to recover than to listen to our enlightening show?
That's true.
And
Good
uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it hasn't been real uplifting lately.
No, truth be told, it's not very uplifting.
But we endeavor to bring you the truth that you're not really hearing elsewhere, and we plan on doing that again for this week's show. So we're glad you could be here with Jim and Jeff for this next hour. We're going to get into a number of things. You recall the debt ceiling vote happened this week. It passed swimmingly, both houses of Congress.
I think we spoke about it last Saturday, if not definitely Monday night. We said, well, why isn't this being talked about?
Yeah.
They got to do something on the debt ceiling by the end of the week.
Right.
Well, they did.
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah.
They sure did, and it passed in just record time, apparently.
Yeah.
And so we got to talk about that. I want to talk about some other economic issues that aren't really getting that much coverage.
Of course.
The truth of the matter is
there is some coverage, but it's just interesting. The AP coverage, it just paints everything so rosy, and we'll get into that. It really, really bugs me how they do that.
And the other thing I want to talk about is Facebook. We use Facebook, and you set up your account, and you set up whether you are a male or a female. But apparently, Facebook spent some time to consider what other gender affiliation you could have.
No, wait. There's only two choices.
No, there's 56. What? Well, 58 if you consider male and female.
58?
Well, there's male and female, and then 56 other ones. So, let me just say, I hope, listeners, that you've spent a good number of hours this week navel gazing to decide which gender custom option you should pick among the 58.
I gotta say, I've spent some time contemplating my navel. It didn't take all that long to figure out which choice to put on there.
Well,
to me, there's only two choices.
Well,
if they wanted to not offend anybody, they could put a third choice, which would be I don't want to say, or I choose not to reply, or something like that.
The only reason you say things like that is because you're a bigot. So may I start to read agender, androgyne, androgynous, bigender, cisgender, cis female, cis male, cis man.
These aren't real.
Cisgender female, cisgender
You're
male,
joking.
cisgender man, cisgender woman,
This
female
can't
to
be
male, FTM, gender fluid, gender
world?
nonconforming, gender questioning,
Gender
gender variant,
nonconforming?
gender queer, intersex,
Gender
male to
variant?
female, MTF, neither,
wait a minute.
neutroyous, non-binary,
What's
other,
what was that
pangender,
one?
trans,
Intersex?
trans
What
with
is
a little
that?
asterisk next to it, trans female, trans with a little asterisk next to it, female, trans male,
What is
trans
that?
with a little
With the
asterisk next to it, male, trans man,
Are you done yet?
trans asterisk man, trans person, trans
Trans
asterisk person,
person?
trans woman, trans asterisk woman,
What in the
trans
world?
feminine, transgender female, transgender male, transgender man, transgender person, transgender woman,
Transgender person?
transsexual female, transsexual male, transsexual man, transsexual person, transsexual woman, two-spirit. So which one did you pick?
Well, male. It wasn't that hard.
You're a bigot. All right, moving on.
All right.
Moving on,
Okay.
listeners. I hope you wrote all those down. If not, you can go to the Slate website where they will be glad to give you that list because I'm sure you're just also very welcoming. Spend some time doing some navel gazing this week to decide which of those 56 you identify with most, because goodness knows, the good Lord wants us to be so tied up in our own self-identity.
Sure.
that we should be
and
just
listeners,
praising
please
Facebook for coming up with this list.
don't be a bigot like me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Moving on
Can we move on?
Other news.
This is nonsense. I can't believe we spent any time on that.
Well, obviously that's because you're a bigot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yep.
Well, we mentioned the debt ceiling.
All right. Yeah, is that right, Archie?
Yeah. All right. That's enough of that.
All right. Yeah, the debt
ceiling. Let's face it, Bogue. The only reason the Republicans did what they did is they crave that power.
Yeah, well, sure.
They think, and they're probably right, but they think that they're going to win the midterms big time, midterm elections coming up, in November, and then they're going to take back the presidency in 2 years.
I'm not so sure I believe that.
I'm not so sure either, but they probably believe that. And man, they're probably salivating, thinking, you know what? We're going to have the power soon, so do we really want a debt ceiling?
Hey,
no.
You think Tony over there in Pleasantville's signed on to get Hillary elected yet?
Oh, I'm sure.
He's probably campaign manager or something. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I bet he is.
Uh-huh.
But you're right, because here's the deal. The fact is we fall for this false dialectic every 4 years, every 2 years, whenever it is.
Whenever.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't like the party gets in. We don't like what George Bush is doing. Oh, we'll vote the Democrat in. He'll do something different. Oh, we don't like what the Democrats doing. Oh, we'll vote the Republicans in. That'll really show them. And really, the joke's on us.
It is.
Because nothing changes.
Right.
Barack Obama is no less George Bush than George Bush, who was no less than Bill Clinton than Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
They just put a little different tweak on it on the edges sometimes.
Well, yeah.
They'll change their speech to make it sound like they're doing something conservative.
Well,
they'll redo Obamacare and they won't fund abortions. Therefore, it's conservative.
Right. Yeah.
Not that the whole thing.
Reform, right?
Yeah.
Healthcare reform,
Exactly.
IRS reform.
So I believe, Book, that you are correct. Because they see it as, well, let's get this done because we're going to sweep the midterms.
Right.
And then that means we can get all our cronies the good stuff.
Exactly.
We can pad our portfolios. Remember, listeners, there's no faster way to riches than to be a member of Congress.
Right. Yeah.
There's no faster way to riches.
That's true. We have more millionaires in Congress than we have ever had.
And they most frequently don't start out as millionaires.
Right.
But when they leave, they're millionaires.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. Explain that to me. So the debt ceiling passed. You have some people mad at the Ted Cruz guy.
Yeah, he apparently did a half-hearted filibuster, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess he did what he could. But the Republicans are pretty PO'd at him because apparently they could have passed the debt ceiling with only the Democrats' votes.
Oh,
okay. Because he did this filibuster, that meant some Republicans had to stick their neck out and vote for it, and they didn't want to do that because they wanted it to pass. Don't get me wrong,
right?
But they wanted to be able to blame the Democrats,
of course,
again, thereby continuing the dialectic.
Sure,
right.
But as a result of filibuster, that forced their hand to have to vote. Right, to end the filibuster, basically.
Correct. That is exactly right.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
It's the tricks they play.
And it's absurd, really. We fall for it, hook, line, and sinker virtually every time.
Yeah.
When the fact of the matter is this vote puts us so much further in debt.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Bogue, but this didn't extend the debt ceiling or increase it. It just says, well, there's no debt ceiling. Am I right?
You are correct.
There's no debt ceiling, and the soonest that there might be a debt ceiling is a year from now.
That's correct.
At least they'll talk about it at that point.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Crazy.
It is crazy. It's absurd. And really, how do we interpret this? How do we interpret this?
Yeah.
What can the explanation be? Can there be?
It's clearly irresponsible.
Well, yeah, but not only that, but could we read into it a deeper level of malaise that is expected for this country? In other words, could we therefore conclude that there is such economic problems afoot that they passed the debt ceiling because they essentially had to pass what they could pass while they could pass it to keep the lie running for as long as possible?
That's where you're wrong, Bo, because I read the headlines from AP.
Oh, okay.
And it's obvious to me, reading AP, that there's no trouble afoot.
Oh.
Matter of fact, everything's pretty much okie dokie.
Wait a minute. All these weeks and months, I've had it all wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry to say, but, I'm looking right here. AP, from this week, applications for jobless benefits rise to 339,000.
Oh.
Now, before you say
that sounds like an awful lot to me.
Benefits rise to 330, before you start with your negativism,
it sounds like a lot to me. 339,000 people. That's that's a lot. It sounds like a lot. It's probably what the population of Atlantic County, maybe, or Ocean County.
Well, I'll just read from the AP. It says right here, the number of people seeking U.S. unemployment benefits rose 8,000 last week to 339,000. Evidence that layoffs ticked up. Now here, you listen to this.
All right, I'm listening.
Still, the increase wasn't enough to suggest that the job market is worsening. See?
Oh.
Right there. AP.
It wasn't, Bo?
Still, the increase wasn't enough to suggest the job market is worsening. So, obviously, if it's not worsening, it must be getting better, right?
Yeah.
That's the way I read it.
Well,
Yeah.
Maybe I've been wrong all this time.
It says right here, the average is roughly in line with pre-recession levels and suggests that despite last week's rise, companies are cutting few jobs. Yeah. Roughly in line with pre-recession levels, folks.
Roughly.
Give or take. Yeah.
What's a few 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 jobs here and there.
Right. Yeah. See? So you got to knock it off. But the data, continuing from AP, the data suggests that the job market remains stable.
Is that right?
That's what it says. The data suggests the job market remains stable despite weak hiring in the past 2 months.
Oh, what's a little weak hiring? Hey, I know they revised December's job numbers. They revised them upward.
See?
By 1,000 jobs. I think we covered that last week.
1,000 jobs is still 1,000 jobs,
That's right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so what's the crux of the AP report is the jobs are doing just fine.
That's right. Yeah.
And so you had a little bit of an uptick on, on unemployment.
Yeah, it happens.
Okay.
It says the data suggests the job market remains stable.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It suggests it. It doesn't say it.
Well, come on. These are smart people. What are you implying?
Right. Oh, yeah.
These are smart people who know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you knocked that off. And besides,
sorry.
I have another headline.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You are full of headlines.
I am, because
news.
I'm just tired of your negativity.
Well, I'm tired of you being like Archie Bunker over there.
Wow.
What's wrong with the little transgender persons going on?
I don't have a problem with them. They just need to make up their mind, male or female. That's all.
Gender queer.
Knock that off. I'm reading this here.
All right.
Winter storms are threatening to chill U.S. economy.
Winter storms, huh?
Yeah. Retail sales tumbled in January after a smaller decline in December, the government said on Thursday. The news came as another snowstorm blanketed a third of the country, likely ensuring that January will mark a third straight month of weak job growth.
Well, we have had record snowfall in the area, have we not?
We have. It says right here, and this is why I'm optimistic. The winter storms barreling across much of the United States are undercutting the nation's economy just when signs of stronger growth have begun to emerge.
We are right
there.
It
says right there that stronger growth is trying to emerge.
And
it's the darn weather, you know.
If it ain't one thing, it's the other.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the government's out of control regulation on our lives and on our businesses and on our personhoods. It says be that
right here. For one thing, harsh conditions tend to rob many hourly workers of income.
Oh yeah.
The avalanche of nasty weather means that waiters, limousine drivers, and store employees might never recoup their lost wages later in the year.
Yeah, because we know that the limousine drivers are just doing oh so well. Yeah. Hey, you know, there's also been a report that I saw about the automobile industry. And, of course, they are trying to soothe investors' minds about that ever-growing inventory. They have record high inventory sitting on dealer lots. So you know what the big car manufacturers said to the investors?
Don't worry, be happy.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, they said, don't worry. Our dealers are great. They'll be able to sell them. That's what they said.
Wow.
That's what they said.
That's
and
funny.
You know what happened? The dealers were like, yeah, don't.
Yeah, right.
Don't foist it off on us there, buddies. Yeah. There's a lot of inventory. Of course, unless you are Mercedes or Porsche, who are seeing record sales. Listeners, when's the last time you bought a Mercedes or a Porsche?
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, during the Super Bowl, was there not a Maserati commercial?
A Maserati commercial. Because so many football fans have enough money to drive a Maserati.
Yeah.
Because things in America are just so great. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Let's take a break. When we get back, we will be going through some other economic news.
Can't wait.
A lot of global economic news that people should be aware of and for some reason may not be. That reason being they just don't talk about it on the news, do they?
No.
Walter Cronkite or whoever it is that sits behind the desk on the 6 o'clock, 6:30 news, they don't talk about these things. We're going to here on Stanching Tyranny. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Jim and Jeff Stanch here. We're glad you could join us this lovely Saturday morning.
Aren't we, though?
Yeah. It's very nice to be here. Very nice to have you here as we cover some things that we've noticed throughout the week regarding the goings-on. And I want to kind of switch gears to some world economic news that people may or may not be aware of. And it's some things that don't portend well for the global economy. Can we agree that we have a global economy already?
Absolutely. In other words, the choices we make here in America affect nations throughout the world, right?
I mean, as do the choices that other countries make.
Right.
Affect us. For oftentimes, for too darn long, we Americans have puffed our chest and slapped ourselves on the back about how we're the biggest and the greatest,
right,
and that everybody needs us more than we need them.
right, right.
Well, that's not exactly the best kind of spirit to have when working with your neighbors.
Right. Well, the fact is they've been working on this for a long time. This defeat sovereignty, defeat nationalism.
Yeah. It goes way back, listeners. It's not new.
Yeah, it's a plan to make the world dependent, all the countries dependent on each other, and do away with borders, right?
Right.
And that's economic and otherwise, social and racial and all that.
Gender borders. Gender borders.
There he goes again. There he goes again.
Transgender female.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah, for
interrupting my thought?
For now.
All right. What I would like to point out is we here in America are blessed with a treasure trove of resources, are we not?
Well, are you counting Fort Knox in that?
No. I mean natural resources.
Oh, okay.
Is there any reason why we couldn't make pretty much anything that we need right here in the United States?
Yes, because let's see. Let the rest of the world sweat. We're going to use our brains.
Well, right. You are right about that. In other words, it's driven by pride that we would not lower ourselves to those menial jobs, right? That we'll do the thinking,
right,
instead of the sweating.
Yeah,
and that's all by design. What I mean to say is, we as a sovereign nation can exist on our own. We can. We don't. As a matter of fact, we should. Each nation should exist on its own.
Yeah.
And that's not to say there shouldn't be trading among nations, but what should be allowed to happen is normal processes whereby if a country buys a product from the United States, well, eventually they might figure out how to make that product on their own and thereby drive down costs and become independent, right? Self-sufficient.
Right.
Isn't that what each country should strive to do?
Well, independent and self-sufficient have become virtual cuss words in America today.
Yeah.
Especially among the elite and the politicians.
Right. And that's a matter of control.
Yeah.
See, they want their power to extend beyond the reaches of our borders into the whole world.
Yeah. And it's affecting the whole world. The acts of the Federal Reserve are affecting countries throughout the world because the emerging markets outflows are really, really heating up.
Right.
As they believe that the Fed tightening will continue because the economy in the U.S. is improving, so we're told. There's a lot of signs of some pretty awful things in other countries.
Yeah.
You look at Greece, record high unemployment, 28%.
They fixed Greece.
Yeah.
I remember. They fixed all that.
Yeah. The youth unemployment rate in Greece, 64.1%.
Wow.
Is that not crazy or what?
That is a huge problem because what happens when there's a lot of young people with nothing to do?
Nothing good.
Nothing good. They get themselves into trouble. They cause trouble. Well, in this case, they're probably angry, right? And they should be, because all opportunity has been stolen from them.
Yeah, they're calling what's going on in Spain a depression. Housing prices are expected to fall another 10 to 15%.
Wow.
In Turkey, they're resorting to spraying protesters with pepper spray, water cannons, because of all the protests that are going on there in Turkey.
Wow.
Venezuela, you got gangs of armed bandits basically just roaming the streets there, doing whatever they want. And then you have China. China is very serious about deleveraging.
Right. Yeah.
Listeners, pay attention to what they're doing in China. They want to deleverage. That is the 180 degrees of what the United States is doing, as proven by the debt ceiling vote taken this week. China is deleveraging.
In other words, they are seeking to get out of debt.
Yeah.
Right?
World asleep as China tightens deflationary vice. I quote this article written by Ambrose Evans Pritchard. China's Xi Jinping has cast the die. After weighing up the unappetizing choice before him for a year, he has picked the lesser of two poisons. The balance of evidence is that most powerful Chinese leader since Mao Zedong aims to prick China's $24 trillion credit bubble early in his 10-year term, rather than putting off the day of reckoning for yet another election cycle.
Well, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Prick the bubble, let it deflate. Will there be short-term pain?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what should have happened back in 2008 in this country.
No.
We should have taken the pain, taken the medicine, allowed the banks to fail, allowed the insurance companies to fail, gone through a period of difficult economic trouble that would have been over in a year.
That's
Instead,
what
are we
Iceland
doing?
Did. A couple other countries
Iceland
did
it. That's
many.
right.
I think Ireland, right? Did Ireland straighten their stuff out?
They started to.
Yeah. I don't know if they.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is that the politicians here are doing the opposite. The fact is we could have went through a really deflationary cycle back then in 2008 if we
we could have gotten it over with.
Instead, we and you are all saddled with more debt than you ever imagined that you're going to have to pay, or your kids are going to have to pay in one way or another to pay back the bankster elites who we owe because our government made us party to these contracts that we never should have allowed them.
Let's recognize, listeners, why we've been taught that inflation is good and deflation is bad.
We should have that lesson.
Inflation is good, but it's not good for you.
Right.
Inflation is good for those like our millionaire Congress people who get the benefit of this cheap money, cheap credit that they can dump into investments because they have inside information that you aren't privy to.
Well, you would be in jail if you took advantage, partook of the insider information. Understand, the political elite are exempt from any rules such as that.
Yeah, of course. They're only for you. Yeah. So what happens? Well, it drives up demand for assets, which drives up prices, right? Demand is driven up, but it's driven up by those who got in low. Those with the inside information, those benefiting from these easy credit policies and the easy money policies that don't include you. You aren't part of that group.
Right.
Now, on the other end, you have deflation. Deflation is a contracting money supply, right?
Yep.
Stricter credit requirements, higher standards for issuing credit, issuing loans, right? Which causes prices to drop.
Right.
Right?
Because there's less money sloshing around in the system. You're more careful to spend it.
Yeah.
Prices go down.
Right. You, listeners, might wait in a deflationary environment. You might wait to make a purchase.
You might wait to buy that new car because you might think to yourself, "Well, wow, if I wait 6 months, it might be $2,000 less."
Right, right. That's a good environment for you, listeners, but it's not a good environment for them.
Right,
right. Because how are they going to take your money if you're hanging on to it, waiting for prices to go down? That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why they've convinced America that inflation is good and deflation is bad.
Yeah. And we've bought into it through the guise of GDP and things like that. You know, we've done the examples many times before with the we use cutting lawn in the summer. We use snow shoveling a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And GDP is a falsehood. It's a number that's manufactured to make you think that a positive number is a good thing.
Right.
That you have to have a positive number for there to be economic progress.
Yeah, just think about it, listeners. If we were in a deflationary environment, you would have more money. You would, in effect, make more money. Your earnings would, in effect, go up because your cost of living would go down. Yeah. You would be able to pay off your debt quicker. But that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can't have you paying off your debt, listeners.
Well, no, and understand the dialectic that's used, because remember, a lot of the financial advisors and things like that, they say inflation is good for debt.
Right.
They say you want inflation so that you can pay a debt that you take out today in inflated dollars, and that effectively costs you less.
Right. But what they're basically saying is debt is good. Debt is not good. Debt is slavery. You don't want to be in debt. But see, the financial industry lives on that. It can't survive without that.
Yeah. And so do the politicians. The tax system lives on an increasing supply of money being forcefully taken from you through inflation, right? They want inflation. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because you bracket creep and all those sorts of things. They don't want deflation because then that means less money for them.
Right.
Imagine in a period of thrift, what happens? Maybe you're socking some money away, sticking it under your mattress or whatever you're doing with it. Right?
Yeah.
Then what happens? Well, you're not buying as much. Sales tax revenues go down. All kinds of fees go down.
Right.
Taxes go down for virtually anything that's tied to, let's call it GDP. One could argue that's what we need.
Yeah.
Because the government wants to have more and more.
Right.
It doesn't matter what side of the aisle. Doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat. Dare I say, it doesn't matter if it's a Tea Party person, because the Tea Party has been hijacked by the mainstream Republican Party.
The proof is in Rand Paul meeting with George P. Bush this week.
Yeah.
George P. Bush. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Now that's going to be the next story we hear, right?
Yeah.
Who are they going to be lining up? Oh, let's get George P. Bush because he looks Hispanic.
Right.
And besides, if we do the amnesty, then they'll vote for him because he looks like him.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So
this is all a plan. Got to keep inflation up. It keeps the tax coffers fat, and no debt ceiling. Why? Well, so that they can spend money on useless, stupid things that only they, the Congress people, and their cronies benefit from. How do they benefit? Well, rising share prices. Maybe they own pieces of a company that gets these contracts.
Yeah, we'll look at what Nancy Pelosi's, or was it Feinstein's husband? That's the CBRE.
Yeah. Yeah, the big
Richard
real
Ellis.
estate. Yeah.
The big, and who has tons of postal service.
Right.
Land contracts, building contracts. They're the last people that would ever vote to dismantle the postal service.
Right. Well, the proof is what they spend their money on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a few of these things, shall we?
We should.
Yeah. There's plenty of them. There's plenty more.
Let's get into 10 stupid things the government spends money on, given to us by the daily reckoning.
$750,000 spent on a soccer field for Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Certainly. $25 billion a year is spent on maintaining empty or vacant federal buildings.
$25 billion.
Probably owned by CBRE, right?
Probably.
$615,000 spent on digitizing photos of T-shirts and concert tickets for the Grateful Dead.
That makes sense.
$700,000 spent studying methane gas emissions from dairy cows. Whoa, that wasn't very nice.
Sorry.
$175,000 spent to study whether cocaine makes Japanese quail engage in sexually risky behavior.
I've always wondered that.
I like this one. $600,000 spent studying why do chimpanzees throw their feces.
Yeah.
$862,000 is what we spend in storage fees every year, storing crud that the IRS doesn't use. $27 million spent last year studying, or I should say teaching Moroccans how to design and build pottery.
Money well spent.
$146 million was the cost of upgrades to seats for federal employees, flight seats to first class.
Oh, well, clearly you don't want them flying coach.
$700,000 studying the benefits of watching television reruns.
Oh, there's plenty of benefits to that.
Yeah.
Gotta reinforce your program.
Well, who doesn't like watching Brady Bunch reruns?
Well, yeah. I'll
or SpongeBob SquarePants.
I do like those.
You know? The Simpsons.
I really like the airline ticket upgrades to first class.
Oh, yeah.
$146 million a year, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you know, in reality, I mean, we can't have those employees who are doing our business.
That's true. We can't have them
and have to be cramped and
uncomfortable.
Maybe, you know, next to an overweight person or you know, something like
or
that.
they might be one.
Well, yeah.
I mean, let's face it.
But you know, obviously, it's important that they get their rest in first class.
But do any of those things that we just listed, do you benefit from any of those?
Well, of course
any
not.
of them?
Of course not.
No.
But see, this is the joke that's played on us.
Mm-hmm.
We have our money forcefully taken from us and spent on those things that we're not a party to. Whether we decide it's a good idea or not really doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter, listeners. What you think doesn't really matter a hill of beans. What we think, what we say on this show really doesn't matter.
No.
They're going to do whatever they want, whenever they want. And they're going to take our money to do it. Am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
This news from overseas in the European Union. Europe considers wholesale savings confiscation and enforced redistribution.
Oh, that's
Speaking
nice.
of taking our money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is actually from a article that was in Reuters, which disclosed a leaked proposal by the European Commission about what they would do if there's another financial crisis.
They're just getting ready.
Yeah.
Just in case.
We've talked about it before, but in a nutshell, in Reuters' own words, it says here, quote, the savings of the European Union's 500 million citizens could be used to fund long-term investments to boost the economy and help plug the gap left by banks since the financial crisis.
See, it's like your $5 trillion in retirement savings, listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you got to be so stingy? Why do you got to be so selfish? Why are you saving this money for yourself?
Right.
That's hoarding.
Yes, that's hoarding.
And you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
Why not let the government have it to distribute it in a way that is fair?
Yep.
That everyone can benefit from it, not just you greedy, selfish person, you.
Yeah, it says here, quote, the economic and financial crisis has impaired the ability of the financial sector to channel funds to the real economy, in particular long-term investment. The solution? The Commission will ask the block's insurance watchdog in the second half of this year for advice on a possible draft law, quote, to mobilize more personal pension savings for long-term financing. Can you say confiscate, listeners?
Now, granted, this is in the European Union, but like we said before, we're in a global economy, listeners. Don't think that the powers in this country aren't watching this.
Yep.
They studied Cyprus and Greece very carefully to see how that would all go when they took their savings, 40% of their savings. And you know what? It went pretty darn good.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't much fuss. There wasn't many riots, or if any even. It went pretty darn good. And, you know, that's great news, you know, because now, we can do more of that, can't we?
The European Union will also be investigating the feasibility of introducing an EU savings account open to individuals whose funds could be pooled and invested in small companies.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Doesn't that kind of sound familiar to you?
Sure does.
IRA. Now, of course, our President Obama didn't say that he would ever invest in small companies.
No, nor did he say that he would confiscate.
Well, no, of course not. He said that they would invest in government securities and savings bonds
backed by the full faith and credit,
and that'll pay a reasonable rate of interest.
Well, you'll never lose your principal.
No.
And besides, listeners, like I was saying before, why you got to be so greedy? Why aren't you more patriotic with your money?
That's right.
Quit your complaining and fussing, and let them do the patriotic thing.
Yeah.
They're only trying to be fair, listeners, with your money. That's all.
Continuing from Reuters, it is also seeking to revive the securitization market, which pools loans like mortgages into bonds that banks can sell to raise funding for themselves or companies. The market was tarnished by the financial crisis when bonds linked to U.S. home loans began defaulting in 2007, sparking the broader global market's meltdown ensuing over the next 2 years.
You mean
the document says the Commission, that is the European Commission, will, quote, take into account possible future increases in the liquidity of a number of securitization products when it comes to finalizing a new rule on what assets banks can place in their new liquidity buffers. This signals a possible loosening of the definition of eligible assets from the block's banking watchdog.
Oh, well, that's good. That's what we need is loosening. You know, it reminds me of the Goldman Sachs story, the way that they were bundling the mortgages and creating securities that they would sell to retail investors as, you know, AAA rated securities, right? That's how they would sell them, but in their offices they would be like, look at this garbage.
They even sent emails to each other, referring to their clients as Muppets and making fun of them, and you know, because they had quotas, they had to unload this garbage into unsuspecting.
They knew it was garbage.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing is going to happen all over again, and it might be, this time might not be real estate, but could it be solar on rooftops, leases? Sure. Why couldn't it be?
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be car leases?
It could be.
They got this glut of inventory. They got to do something with it, right?
You put a cheap lease out there. You bundle it, sell it to somebody, and cross your fingers.
Right.
Same
sell to
thing
some poor guy who's got a meager retirement savings. You sell it to him as a AAA rated security, and you come up with some sort of fancy name for it that sounds real good.
Yeah.
And you sell them this garbage.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's garbage.
Yeah. And the same, like you said, can be said for solar. Matter of fact, Solar City has come out and said that they plan on selling their investments directly to retail investors.
Directly to customers. Oh, listener, you don't have a roof that's suitable for solar? Well, you can still participate in this exciting technology by just buying this fund here that invests in solar.
And besides, people will have to have an electric bill, so they'll most certainly pay their solar lease before they would pay, say, their cable bill if things got really bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The fact that Solar City is selling these investment products to retail investors, that's just normal people like you and me, right? And they're selling it, saying that it's got this guaranteed income and this and that. That is a red flag.
Yeah.
There is a problem with the Solar City leases out there.
Well, there is. The fact is Solar City is not profitable. They aren't earning a profit.
They never have been.
Yeah, they've earned their they've gotten their funding through bond issuances and venture capitalists. And
but maybe this might be a way for them to become profitable, right? Because they sell the lease to actual people who want solar, and they lease the product. They use the cheapest products that they can.
They use whatever's available at the time.
Right. That's right.
The best available.
Yeah. Then they bundle all these lease instruments together, and they create a financial product. And they come up with a name like Sunshine Solar, guaranteed income
fund.
Yeah. And they sell it to retail investors
who don't know any better.
And it sounds good. And it's solar, and everybody knows how good that's going. And gee whiz, I'll buy that fund.
Yeah.
Well, now maybe Solar City can finally turn a profit.
Maybe
not by selling solar by any means, but by fleecing people, getting them to give them their hard-earned retirement savings in return for a worthless asset.
Yeah. Now, it's no secret, listeners, you all know that we're in the solar business. We do solar every day. We are big fans of solar.
Absolutely.
We offer SunPower products. SunPower also has a lease. The difference is SunPower leases their own product that they manufacture.
Make.
They back it. They finance it through the lease. They don't bundle it and sell it to other people. It's their own product. They do it themselves. They back it. They warranty it. And they're a profitable company.
Yeah, well, there's the big one there. They actually are a profitable company. They're not looking for clever and, dare I say, misleading ways to generate a profit.
No.
They're doing it honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have, they're a very non-gimmicky company, which is important.
Yeah.
That they tell it like it is. Their product is real, it's proven, and that is important because that's what you need.
Absolutely.
That's what you need.
Well, I think it's time for a break. Why don't we take a quick break, and we will get into a little more economic news when we come right back. You're listening to Stanching Tyranny Radio. Thank you for listening. We'll be right back. Welcome back, listeners.
Welcome back.
We are back. Stanching Tyranny Radio. While I'm thinking of it, I would like listeners to go to Facebook, not to change their gender affiliation, but to become a fan of Stanching Tyranny.
Why? What if they wanted to change their gender affiliation?
Well, I would rather that they not participate in that useless endeavor. I think it's silly. I think it is done just to create controversy. And frankly, as a bigot, I say it's stupid. You're either male or female, and that's all there is to it.
But aren't we supposed to be a nation of choices, Aren't we supposed to have freedom? Shouldn't
we do have freedom
to click a button under
hey, you know what?
Genderqueer if you decide to?
You can dress however you want. You can do with your private parts however you want. I don't care. The fact is, you're either male or female. That's the way you were born. And I'm sorry, it's not up to you. It's up to the almighty creator.
We don't go by facts in the US of A anymore. Facts are an outdated notion.
Okay, well, All right. Well, anyway, I would like listeners to join us on Facebook, Stanching Tyranny. Go ahead and like our page if you would, and we try to post relevant topics, and we would love to see you there. So we were talking about economic news. I'd like to get some more into some specifics closer to home. Regarding, well, what do you do with your money? It's very likely that we're not going to see a deflationary environment anytime soon.
Well,
Don't count on it, listeners.
Yeah, the elite will do whatever they can to ensure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So what do you do in the meantime? Well, we've talked about it before. Precious metals, great way to go. There's something that will never completely lose its value, unlike paper, right?
Right.
So what a good way to go there. I personally would like to recommend that listeners at least have some of their savings in precious metals. And you see various numbers bantied about anywhere from 10% to 25%. I think that's probably safe to go in that range somewhere.
I would think. And listen, we're not financial advisors or anything like that. We're just a couple of blockheads that are giving you our opinion.
Yeah. But the fact is, just from a common sense standpoint, it's common sense when you realize that if you hold it in your hand, it belongs to you.
Right.
We're not talking about digits on a computer screen here. Correct. We're talking about the physical asset. Yeah. So it might be gold and silver. It might be platinum. It might be real estate. It might be food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you consider that the cattle herd in the U.S. Listeners, have you heard this?
Yeah.
The cattle herd is at the lowest level since, I believe, 1950-something?
1951, yeah.
1951.
Yeah.
Now, understand, in 1951, there was about a third of the population.
That's right.
As there is right now.
Yeah.
And the cattle herd is at that level.
That's our beef, listeners. That's obviously that has to have an impact on our food prices.
We're heading to a world of $20, $25 a pound T-bone steaks.
Right. Well, you look at California. I know recently they're getting some relief, but the snowpack is like 12% of what it should be.
Yep, it's way down.
The water, the rain is just, they're in a drought.
Yeah.
They have been for some time.
And when that happens, listeners, you basically got to get rid of your cattle. You got to dispatch them. You got to get them into the food supply sooner rather than later.
In the meantime, we have polar vortexes killing off large amounts of cattle, the extreme cold.
Yep.
That affects not only cattle, but also warm weather crops like citrus in California and in Florida. Wheat growth in Texas has been cut short this year by the cold weather.
Yeah, they got some cold down there too.
Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia just getting hammered with bad weather. And
don't they always have bad weather down there?
They do, but
seems like every time you turn around, there's a flood in the Philippines.
Well, and it's killing a lot of fish.
Yeah,
and that obviously affects food prices. Peru, Venezuela, and Bolivia are having record floods. There go the coffee darn prices.
Oh no.
Yeah. Isn't that awful?
Yeah, gotta have good
coffee, as listeners know. There's volcanic eruptions going on in Ecuador, for crying out loud. Yeah. Australia has been in drought for over 2 years. Rice production in China has been affected by record low temperatures. And look at the UK.
Yeah,
just recently they're getting hammered.
Yeah, they are
hammered. Record flooding, and they expect that there's enough groundwater flooding going to be on the ground until May.
Wow!
It won't recede until May, and that's assuming they don't get much more here.
Get out your galoshes.
Exactly.
Man.
The Thames River is 65 feet higher than normal.
Holy moly!
That is correct.
That is, better get out your mutlocks.
Yeah. So we're not talking about just locally here. We'll feel it But this is a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah, it
and
really is.
The result is going to be higher and higher food prices. So we say, again, get your hands on the real thing.
Yeah.
Whether it be canned goods
if
or...
you have the ability to buy some food and store it, do it.
Just a few dollars a week. Buy the stuff that's on sale. Canned goods, pasta.
It might save you some money in the long run.
Beans.
Yeah. Might save you some money in the long run just to have it and stick it away.
Right. Because again, in the USA today, if you can't hold it in your hand, it ain't yours.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the store shelves in the supermarkets. Just thanks to winter storm.
Right. Right.
What happens if they just aren't getting product?
Yeah.
We have to be aware of it.
Absolutely. That's how you stanch tyranny.
That's
after all.
We're glad you could listen. Tune in next week for more Stanching Tyranny at this 8 o'clock hour. We'll see you then.